Waking up, I smell the coffee in the air. Stocks opening today, I'm gon' drip. If you can't take no risks, how you gon' learn how it feels like to be financially stable, physically able to enjoy the finer things in life? Look at me, man, I'm living like a dream. To get ahead in life, you gotta grind. You gotta use what you have to survive.
How do we find such a great entry on Twitter? And no, it had nothing to do with Elon Musk and buying it and backing out and buying it, so forth and so on. It was really done using some various confluence. As you can see here, back in April, we had this high over here in which we could pull a fib from down to this low down here in February. And what was interesting is you can see here how the price actually retraced up into this golden pocket, fell through, found some support at this weekly and daily level area, sort of bounced, and brings us into sort of our next thing I want to show you here, which is what we ended up having here is another indicator here, which is trend exhaustion and whale money flow. And you can see on the daily chart that both of these had peaked right at this particular golden pocket, and then momentum continued on the daily to get lower on the trend exhaustion, as well as on these particular momentum waves. You could also see money flow coming down right here as well, and then money flow coming down here. Now, this was actually a little bit easier to see here on the 4-hour chart, which was quite impressive. You can see how not only once here we pushed up with a trend exhaustion, price came down and then came back up. You can see here again where it really peaked, also was on this particular momentum wave. And then the entry really for us was around this $50 area. And the reason is because if you were to look at what was happening down here with momentum, you can clearly see the trend was exhausting. You could also see money flow coming down. This is the whale money flow. You could also see money flow coming down and momentum coming down here. Some of these indicators represent similar or the same things, but this was a beautiful setup because not only did we have this area where we're getting up into these Fibonacci's and getting near and close to a sort of a daily resistance level now, but we also had momentum and money flow coming down on the 4-hour chart. And then you can see, of course, we had a complete money flow crossover right here at this area. You can see that here, which is around this $47 area. Now, what we had done actually when it was around $50, we're looking at a $48 strike price, 30 to 40 days out, and then price ended up subsequently falling here all the way down into this $36 level, which is where the take profit really occurred. And as you can see, we're about $50, it's close enough, down to this $36 area, which is a 27% drop. And as you can imagine with an option, that actually ended up being well over 600% in the actual option itself. Now, why did we particularly know that there might be a good profit-taking area there? And there's really a couple reasons to sort of look at this. One of them happens to be that if we're taking, this low here on the fib up into this area on this high, we ended up coming down to the 786. So price actually on this move ended up retracing, 78.6%. The other thing is we also had this daily level at $36.64, which you can see if you go previously back on the daily chart, how that has been respected way prior in the past with the Twitter stock. And then also you can see this little wick right here, found some support recently in March, right on there, how price was quickly bought up at this level. And then also we can turn on various high value nodes over a period of time, and we can look at what some of those things particularly look like or we can actually, let me reset the chart here. We can actually also grab the fixed range volume profile tool, and we can pull from a huge range back in 2018, and we can see this massive node. I mean, look at this right here on the daily. Right here, this is on $32. This whole area up into here, so $36 here. Here's another one at $37. We can see another one here at $40. So we knew that these areas were pretty critical. Not so much in here in comparison, but way down here, of course, at $32. This was a great support for a long trade back in February, which you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Continued as support. Moab momentum was actually coming up for this long. Got a rejection at this particular golden pocket. So here's what's really great about this, and this is why, you know, being ready for these, looking for entries and exits is absolutely phenomenal. So this particular trade right here was a 69% trade. And the other thing too that's really interesting about this, you can see how on our trend we had actually bottomed here. Now we can probably pull this on the 4 hour as well. And yes, in fact, right here. So we actually bottomed here. You can see this. So here's a big anchor wave, right? Here's the price. We're about to basically the same price, higher momentum. We're still at the same price, higher momentum, and we also have higher momentum on the actual trend itself. So this is an imbalance. This is a massive bullish divergence. So here's our big part of our strategy. We wait and we look for price to come to a level. We simply set alerts, so we can go ahead and add an alert right here as an example. So when price comes down or price crosses, and we can name it here, you know, Twitter is crossing this price, whatever it might be, and create that. It'll start, you know, firing off and beeping at us, so forth and so on, and then we can come and we can look at the chart where we're going to look for either bullish divergence at support or bearish divergence at resistance, which is what you can see happen here. And it's very clear and very easy to see. We had a big anchor wave, we had higher momentum waves, which is right there, and yet we had this price action, which basically was technically coming down. You can see it coming down here. So price was actually coming down, but momentum was coming up, and then sort of kind of stayed flat here. You can also see this again, I just want to point this out, in the actual trend itself. You can see the trended bottom on the 4 hour, which is very powerful, and continued up while price was basically maintaining the same. Sort of like a teeter-totter principle. You know, you put weight on one side, and then that gets stacked, and then it creates an imbalance, and then it has to return. So that pendulum has to swing back and equal things out. But just on this one trade as an example, I mean, this was massively powerful. Elon Musk or not, this was a 60+% move in the market. And this was just done literally in a very short amount of time. I mean, this was done in 35 days, in a month. I mean, how would you like to make 68% in 1 month on whatever you have? Now, as I mentioned, we were also then getting bearish divergence, and we had a golden pocket resistance. We had a daily resistance, and then we were also down here at a 50%, and we just passed over another daily. But this particular area at this $50 with the bearish divergence, looking for a $36 sort of move down here, this then was a 27% move. So over this particular period of time, whether you used options or leverage or not, didn't really matter. But over an 85-day period, so 3 months basically, this was a 100% move in the market on this particular stock in this particular trade. Of course, you know, we found a little bit of momentum here. We bottomed out. We're massively oversold. Whale money flow came down, the RSI came down, trend got exhausted, and then momentum started to pick up. In fact, on this daily level here, and then we've come up into another sort of golden pocket type scenario. And in fact, let's pull this one here. It's a 382. So On this 382, you can see right here, we ended up getting a rejection as well. I mean, guys, this is simple. Like, if you want to learn how to do this, we provide the charts. We mark all these things out ahead of time. Folks can request, various stocks or cryptos in advance, and you can easily see how just applying some basic Confluence strategies with daily, weekly, Fibonacci, money flow, trend, so forth and so on, that you can apply these things and have massive success, especially using leverage or options in a very short amount of time. I mean, this particular trade here was less than 2 weeks, and this was well over 600%. So in our 2,000 to 100,003 trades, this here was well into the $10,000 plus trade range on this one trade in less than 2 weeks. It's pretty incredible.
People in your circle with drive. Make sure your inner beast is out in the field of play. It's no jokes, no games, super simple trades. I don't know how I roll. You can never be me.